In fact, it looked all clear and sunny yesterday when we did the forecast, and now it looks grey and miserable. Oh dear. Anyway, let's look at the morning newspapers for some more cheer. We're joined once again by Claire Pearsall.
That's not guaranteed, I'm afraid.
Not with the news currently.
No, we're not. Josh Rom. All right, let's crack on with this story. Should mention that the news from the US overnight that Donald Trump is threatening to blow up the power plants hasn't made the papers because it happened quite late at night.
He set that 48-hour deadline, hasn't he?
He did set that deadline. It's in the websites of the papers, but not on the front pages. So the Times, Claire, have gone with this report from Israel that they claim that Iran now has the firepower to be able to hit London with its missiles.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a worrying aspect. When you start looking at the radius of blast zone from Iran and how close to Europe that comes, it is a really frightening aspect. I think what is more interesting is the president now putting all of this out on his social media channels. I mean, I've been catching up with it this morning, sort of on the drive in, and overnight, so much news is happening with the American president that you think by the time the front pages come, we are so behind in all of this.
Yeah, with his late-night posts on social media.
All of his late-night posts. But I think the UK needs to be really worried about the reach of Iran and the fact that it's willing to do so, the fact that it is willing to send across ballistic missiles over Diego Garcia as a warning should strike fear into our hearts. How well defended is the United Kingdom? Because I would say at the moment, not very.
Right.
Well, yeah, I mean, and clearly, as you say, they probably want a reaction. They probably want it to be a deterrent against joining the US and Israel. I mean, Josh, what do you make of this?
Well,
and how do you think the government should react?
Well, I think it's exactly what Claire was saying. I think the government should absolutely take this seriously. They should be very alarmed by this. I think they need to look at countries like Ukraine and Israel and look at their air defences, because we don't have that in the event that the mullahs and the ayatollahs do want to launch something like this. And actually, this should serve as a warning, because Trump likes to boast saying, oh, they don't have a navy, they don't have an air force, we're completely obliterating them. But geopolitically, it's those regimes that are on the brink, that have nothing to lose. That's when they're at their most dangerous.
Yeah, and just to be clear as well, it's not confirmed yet that Iran has this capability, or whether or not those missiles that were fired towards Diego Garcia would have actually made it, because one was shot down, one apparently failed in flight. But I think the threat is pretty clear, regardless of the fact that they have capability that
it's
we
the fact
don't
that they
know
have
yet.
that. It's the fact that they even have that capability is a huge concern. I believe.
It's still 2,500 miles, so we shouldn't underestimate that they do have that power available to them. And I think that this is really just a warning.
It's certainly going to focus minds at Westminster as well as in homes up and down the land. Let's move on, though, shall we, to some other issues, because we've done an awful lot on Iran this hour. So let's take in some of that. We have lots of other things going on. The Telegraph, Claire, they are focusing on the Greens and how they're trying to take another bite out of Labour's support.
I mean, the Green Party is definitely in ascendance at the moment, as we saw from the recent by-election and local elections across the country. The Green Party have put themselves out there as the alternative to the Liberal Democrats when you're looking at a protest vote. It's interesting that they are more left-wing than the current left-wing government that we have in place, and people are still looking to them to be the alternative. Zach Polanski is now looking at student loan repayments. Absolutely right to do so. It's a very good subject, especially for those people who are paying over and above what they really need to be doing. But I do wonder sometimes how much the Green Party's policies are really scrutinised in when it comes to cost. Now, the Greens have got a conference coming up, so this is always going to be a good ground for them to put forward these sort of innovative policy ideas. But it is quite concerning that no other party is really looking at the moment at this seriously. Kemi Badenoch has suggested that the Conservative Party would cap the repayments at RPI. Labour are sort of flip-flopping around. They don't really know what to do. And the Liberal Democrats, well, you know, they'll have a song and a dance about it if they please.
Student tuition fees are a sore subject for them.
Absolutely.
It is a sore subject.
Well, I mean, it's what we would call in showbiz, it's a hot topic at the moment, because I think what has been highlighted, especially I think to my generation as well, people who were going to university 10 years ago, people from my generation, they've barely touched their student loan itself because they've been paying so much interest. And I think what has been very much highlighted is the system is very much broken. And you say that the Greens are an alternative to the Liberal Democrats. Well, actually, a lot of people are looking at them as a proper alternative to Labour. And especially if they do look at issues like these hot topics, and bearing in mind, people of my generation, we're still paying back that interest. We're still paying back those interest rates. We're still paying back those loans. So this is very much a hot topic for people, not just the youth vote that has been traditionally been Labour, but people, the kind of millennial generation as well.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing is that younger generation, you know, I look to my son as an example, does consider the Green Party to be a viable alternative. So they are offering up something that is bringing younger people with more interest to politics. So you're right, they're taking on a subject which means a lot to most people.
Yeah, and as Zach Blancy has said, their job is not to sort of make the Labour Party better, it's to replace the Labour Party. He's made that quite clear that that's his intention. Right, let's move on to this in the Mail, and it's about the outbreak in Kent, the Men B vaccine to be given to all teens. I mean, people are looking at the vaccine schedule and whether it should change in light of what's happened.
Well, I think the COVID pandemic has shown that actually, when it comes to vaccine rollout, the country does have capabilities for those. I think it's a case of what the government and what we as a society, what can we learn from COVID? And this is actually, I think, a good test for the country, whether or not we can handle any sort of vaccine, not vaccine rollout, but any sort of spreads of any future diseases. I mean, I know, Claire, you live in Kent, so this is an area, that affects you.
Yeah, not so far away. And I also have a 17-year-old who has not had the Men B vaccine because it was only rolled in. It was rolled in from 2015. So we're seeing that cohort of kids now coming through, going into universities, and it's frightening that the spread of this has been so quick. I think the reaction has been OK, and that's about as good as I'll give. I think the information was not given quick enough to students. There were an awful lot of students who weren't told about it, even though they were pretty close contacts at the time. And they weren't given the information as to how it's being spread, what they can do, the symptoms they need to look for, which, you know, the media did step in and did a really good job at that. But I think that we need to be better in our public health responses when it comes to information, speed of vaccine rollout, and just encouraging people to get their kids vaccinated in the first
And we see these queues for the vaccine. They are doling out thousands of vaccines and doses of antibiotics as well, which is obviously, you know, if you are kind of harbouring the disease in the bacteria, exactly, that they will deal with that in the short term. And the vaccine will protect you in the longer term. But what about these calls to give all young people or possibly everybody the vaccine?
I think we need to look at the scientific, and I hate to sort of say this, but the scientific evidence needs to be looked at. And I'm absolutely sure that teens should have this particular vaccine because it does seem to be pretty prevalent in either very young children or teenage years. So if you're sending kids off to university where they're going to be mixing with lots of other people, doing things that teenagers do at universities, you need to make sure they're protected. But I think that vaccination rates in this country when it comes to kids is falling, and that needs to be addressed really quickly. Kind
of linked tangentially, but young people in health advice. There's a line here in, I don't know which paper it is, it doesn't matter. It's about millennials.
I'm going to be honest, this absolutely depresses me, this article.
Tell us what it's about then, Josh.
So millennials are seemingly trusting YouTube over GPs for health advice. And I think this is actually quite shocking. So it's a poll of 2,000 adults have showed that millennials were the most interested generation in alternative treatments, with massage and aromatherapy top of the list. These are not conventional health treatments, and I think, obviously, always go and seek advice from a health professional. I think this shows. I think this basically just shows the state of the world that we're living in, the rise of social media, how fragmented we are as a society, and just essentially go and see a GP, go and see a real doctor.
OK, we've only got 30 seconds, but I did want to just show everyone the Daily Star on Sunday. We haven't got too much time to discuss it. It says 1 foot in the rave, over 65 is more likely to go out than Gen Z.
Absolutely, I mean, definitely.
100%. And what's wrong with that? We see, they've still got some dance moves, still got time to party the night away. Absolutely. We have the best music.
Do you think it's true that Gen Zs not go out?
I think there is a trend for a lot. I think there's a trend to stay in. Nice, cosy night in on a Saturday night with your friends, evening parties. Yeah.
Netflix and chill.
Netflix and chill, exactly.
Older generations have better music, though.
We're out of time. Thanks
For
both.
being with us, guys.
Cheers.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?